Hello everyone, my name is Daryl McCullough. I'm currently assigned as a major with the East Point Police Department. I've been with the police department going on almost 23 years. We wanted to take some time today to talk about code enforcement with the city of East Point. Code enforcement is a unit of the police department and it's been assigned there for several years. So one of the things that we would like to do is to talk today about what code enforcement is, what you should do if you receive a warning or a citation for violating the city codes, kind of how the city codes are brought into fruition, and give you some examples of those. Code enforcement is comprised of many city ordinances. City ordinances are basically laws passed by council, your city council. They're the legislatures when it comes to the city of East Point. All of the city's codes are for three main purposes: safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of East Point. These codes are comprised of property maintenance codes, business license regulation, locations that sell alcohol have regulations. We also have laws and ordinances that apply to sanitation, when you can leave your garbage can out, things of that nature. There's just a lot of different regulations that are established by cities. And one of the important things is how do you go to find what those codes are. The city is a partner with Muni Codes. It's established on a web-based server. To find out any of the codes or ordinances that the city of East Point has, all you have to do is simply go to Google or any other search engine and type in East Point, Georgia Muni Codes. That's MUNI codes. It'll take you directly to the site. There's also a link to Muni Codes with the city ordinances on the city's homepage, and that's www.eastpointcity.org. It's very important that you know what the laws are and what the regulations are. And in some of this video, we'll go over some of the most common code violations. But I just wanted to take a moment to let you know where you would go to find those ordinances as they're written. And of course, all of those ordinances, when they're passed, are required to go through council. All of the council meetings are public, and we encourage you to watch the council meetings or to participate in them. So at this time, I'd like to discuss for a couple minutes the actual code process and what the code officers that are employed with the city do. So currently, the city has 6 code officers and a code supervisor that work up under the police department. We currently have 2 openings in that unit, so if you're interested in becoming a code officer, please call the police department to inquire. Basically, the code officer's job is to patrol the city. They're assigned to different areas in the city, typically either a police zone or a ward in the city. The code officers that are assigned to those areas patrol their zones and their assigned areas on a routine basis. They're basically canvassing their area for code violations. It can be an example if someone complained that someone had tall grass, a junk car, they could be responding to that complaint. That would be considered reactive code enforcement. We do work off of complaints, however, the code officers also patrol the city and they self-initiate work basically when they see code violations. So a perfect example of this would be the code officer begins their day, they ride the city in their area. If they see a violation of a municipal code, many of the codes have different things that they have to do. Most of those codes require a warning, specifically when it comes to property maintenance. So if they see someone with tall grass or a junk car or excessive accumulation of leaves, high bushes, anything of that nature, what the process asks and requires the code officer to do is to leave a warning at the property. Most of the codes require that the property be posted. Simply put, the code officer has literature that basically says what the violation is. They write on the pamphlet what the violation is, their name, their phone number, and then the code gives a specific amount of time to correct the violation. For example, if you came home and found a notice on your door or on your structure or wherever it may be, it will have what the violation is. If it's tall grass, it'll say tall grass. It'll give you a time period to correct the violation, and it will also give the officer's name and number. So what happens from there is basically you get the notice. It's a warning, it's not a citation. Any code violations that are considered citations require a court appearance. So basically, if you correct the code violation within the prescribed time on the pamphlet or on the warning, then that ends the process. The code officer will ride by and recheck. They will close the case out at that time. If you do not correct, or as it's called, abate the violation in the specified time required by the warning and the municipal ordinance, then contact will be made with you. At that point, the code officer will move to the next level, which is issuing an actual citation. Citations for most property maintenance issues can be issued to an owner or occupant. It could be the resident, or it could be the owner of the house if the owner does not live at the house. That would require a court date. You would have to provide your information, such as a driver's license, to the code officer, which is required by law, and they would issue you a citation. The court date would be set in accordance with whatever the court dates are given to us by the court department in their code enforcement calendar. You will be required to make a court appearance if you get a code actual citation. At that appearance, the code officer will present the case. You will be allowed the same to present your case, just like in any matter. Code violations are violations of city law. They do come with some penalties. Any code violation in the city of East Point, you can receive up to, I believe it's $1,000 fine per day, per violation, and up to 6 months in jail. Now, that's not what we want to do. That's not what is typical. Typically, if you do not abate a violation, you receive a ticket and you appear in court. It's up to the judge to establish what punishments may be fit. But also, the judge is the one that will require you to abate the code violation if the city wins the case in court. It's very similar to any other type of court case. It's just dealing with codes which are more environmental. It's actually considered quasi-criminal. It's not truly criminal in nature, but it also has some punishments that can be levied against you. No one wants it to go to that level. The entire purpose of code enforcement is to get the property abated, or whatever the violation is abated, prior to ever coming to court. Unfortunately, sometimes we do have to make court cases, and then it goes through the court process. Until the judge hears the actual case, or if your case is pre-tried with the city solicitor and an agreement is met, that property could still not be in compliance. So if you're a neighbor and you call code enforcement about a violation, and it seems like it's taking a very long time for the grass to get cut or the junk cars to get removed, it doesn't necessarily mean that the code officer has not done anything. The code officer could have left a warning. The warning could have expired. There could be a court case pending. Just like in all litigation, this stuff takes time. People are allowed to hire attorneys even in code violations. Sometimes things happen in court which are reset and the case can be prolonged for a period of time. Specifically, this past year with COVID, the courts have been primarily shut down, as all of you know. They've recently opened back up. So we hope that a lot of the cases that you're seeing where the properties are still in violation, that these are cases that will be gone through very quickly and the property be abated shortly. The code officer's job is to enforce the city codes as they are written, and that is the process from start to end of the code process. So in this section, I'll be talking about some of the most common code violations that are enforced in the city of East Point and some of the most common violations that the code officers see. The first violation that the code officers deal with on a regular basis is trash and debris. In the city of East Point, it is a violation of municipal ordinance to have any accumulation of litter, debris, garbage, dead trees, excessive leaves, junk material, and derelict vehicles in the yard. Another common code violation that we see in East Point dealing with property maintenance is open storage. It is against municipal code to store any objects that are not related to the use or purpose of the property or have no apparent value in its present form in the yard, porches, or patios. This includes appliances, building material, and interior furniture. Another very common code violation, especially during the summer months, is tall grass and weeds. The city ordinance for that is your grass or any weeds in your yard can be no higher than 6 inches. This may not seem like it's very high, but 6 inches is pretty much the standard across the country for tall grass and weeds. This may not be your entire yard. So if you get a notice for tall grass and weeds, please don't be upset if there's a small area of your yard that has higher than 6 inches in grass and weeds. The code officer is simply enforcing the codes. Just take care of that area and everything will be okay. One of the things that many people do not realize in the city of East Point is it is against the law to park your car or a vehicle in your yard. In other words, on your grass specifically. All vehicles have to be parked on the pavement. This is a very common code violation. The reason that we have those type of ordinances is if people park their cars in their grass, it leaves dirt spots and marks and things of that nature. Simply please park your car in the garage, in the carport, on the driveway, or if it's safe and legal to do so, you are allowed to park on the street. The next code violation that we see very often is called derelict motor vehicles. Don't get mixed up with the term derelict. Some ordinances call it junk motor vehicles. We're not saying that your vehicle is derelict or that it's junk. It's simply the term placed in the city ordinance. In essence, if you have a car or truck or vehicle on your property, it has to be able to be used. It has to run. It has to have valid insurance, and it has to have a valid tag. The only area that you can store a vehicle that does not have valid insurance, a valid tag, or is inoperable is in a closed garage. So please make sure that all of your vehicles are operating. Make sure that they have valid tags and valid insurance, and you will not receive a warning for those. It's very easy to tell if a vehicle has not been moved or used. Also, your tags are very easy to tell if they're expired, and the tag is affixed to an insurance database that tells us whether the car has valid insurance. The next code violation that we often see is called open storage. In the city of East Point, It is against the city ordinance to place any grills, cooking utensils, tools, laundry, clothes, or other household linens or food on the front or side yard. An example of this would be having a grill stored in your front yard, having a clothesline in your front yard. These may be things that you do or you see people do. However, they are against the property maintenance code of the city of East Point. The city of East Point also has ordinances for limitation on trucks. Any vehicle that is over 4 tons cannot be parked in a residentially zoned area. An example of a vehicle that may be over 4 tons is a 17-foot U-Haul truck or Ryder truck. So not a very big truck, but it's against the law to park those vehicles in a residential area overnight. Now, there are exceptions, of course. If you're moving and you're in a U-Haul and you're actually in the process of moving, nobody's going to leave you a notice or give you a ticket if you're renting a U-Haul truck or another company's moving truck to move. We're talking about people that have commercial businesses or use those trucks for commercial purposes and park them in their residential neighborhoods overnight. Another common complaint is tractor trailers. Tractor trailers are not allowed to be parked or stored in residential areas. A lot of people think that they can be stored in commercial areas. That's not true. A shopping center is considered a commercial area to some people, but you have to park tractor trailers in a zoning ordinance that is industrial. There are only very few industrial zones within the city of East Point. If you own a tractor trailer or drive a tractor trailer and you live in East Point, please do not park your tractor trailer in a shopping center parking lot or in your residential neighborhood. If you do, you will receive a warning. If you do not comply, you will receive a ticket. Those are very expensive tickets. And a lot of the companies that the drivers drive for also penalize their drivers if they receive tickets of that nature. Recently, the city of East Point has also hired sanitation inspectors. They are actually code officers that work for the Department of Sanitation. Their primary focus will be to enforce the codes that deal with sanitation concerns. Some of the most common code violations that deal with sanitation are when people leave their trash cans out. The trash cans I'm referring to are the Kirbies, as they call them. The things that you put your trash in when you take the trash out of your house. When you place trash in those trash cans, all trash has to be containerized. In other words, please use plastic trash bags made for trash disposal. Tie the trash bags, place the trash bag from your house in your Kirby. On the evening before your trash pickup, place the receptacle or the Kirby on the street. You have to make sure that on the day of trash pickup that you remove that Kirby from the street and put it back at your house that same evening. It cannot remain on the street for several days. If it does, you will get a warning and you're subject to being given a citation with a court appearance. The reason that that ordinance is enforced is because it makes it very difficult for people to drive up and down the street with Kirbies on the roadway for multiple days. Also, one of the most common things and the code requires is that your trash can and Kirby, you have to place it on your property where it is in the back of your property or the side of the property closest to the rear if possible. In other words, when you're driving down the street, the purpose is so you don't see trash cans in people's front yards or Kirbies. That's a very common code violation that many people are not familiar with. If you can't place your Herbie-Kirby in the back of your property, place it as far to the back on the side as possible. You can also mask the Herbie-Kirby or camouflage it in a manner that to where it's not visible from the public view. In the city of East Point, it is illegal to just put anything on the curb at any time and expect that it be picked up. This is considered bulk trash. The only thing that'll be picked up on your trash day is your garbage can, and Herbie-Kirby will be empty. Please do not place couches, mattresses, limbs, or anything else on the street. You can do that. However, you need to call sanitation prior to placing those items on the street. They will tell you how much the charge will be, and then they will tell you when to put it out there and it will be picked up. That's considered bulk trash. What happens if you leave bulk trash out, it's not picked up if you didn't make contact and arrangements. If a sanitation inspector comes by, they see the bulk trash, they know that you did not make contact with anyone to make arrangements for it to be picked up. You'll be given a 48-hour notice to remove it. If it's not removed within those 48 hours from the right-of-way, then you're subject to being given a citation with a court appearance. One of the items that code enforcement often has to deal with as well is building permits. 99% of the time, if you're gonna build something in East Point, if you are going to alter your house, build a storage shed, build a fence, anything of that nature, cut trees down, projects in the yard, certain things, please call the permit department prior to doing so. Most things do require that the homeowner or who the homeowner is hiring have a permit to do that. So if the code officer's riding around and they see a roof being put on a house or multiple trees cut down, they're probably gonna stop and ask if you have a permit. The code officers do have access to the city's database, so they do know in a lot of cases if a permit's been issued or not. If you build a home or alter a home or do things outside of the scope of work or which requires a permit in the city of East Point, this is one of those situations where there is no warning by the city ordinance. You will receive a ticket and you will have to appear in court. This is because there are many building regulations dealing with life and safety issues that the city wants to make sure that everyone's safe. We also want to protect the trees and the landscaping throughout the city. So in all cases, just be safe and call the permit office and explain what it is that you want to do. They will tell you whether you need a permit or not. If you need a permit, please go through the process in the manner prescribed by them to get the permit prior to conducting any work. One of the areas that code enforcement also has to enforce is the city business license laws. Anytime you are operating a business in the city of East Point, you're required to have a business license. So if you want to open up a small business, a restaurant, or even a large business, a retail store, any type of business that's conducted in the city of East Point, in most cases requires that you have a business license prior to opening your business. If you do not have a business license and you're operating a business in the city of East Point, you will not receive a warning. You will receive a citation, which would require a court appearance. And also every year, annually, that you have a business in East Point, you have to renew your business license. Most of those renewals are sent out either in December or January, letting you know it's time to renew your license. The city of East Point even gives you a grace period until, I believe it's the end of March, to renew your business license. Code enforcement does not issue citations to businesses that have not simply renewed their business license until after that grace period. If you are operating a business without a license period, they will issue a citation. So just make sure that's the basic thing you need when you're operating a business is a business license. That should be the first thing that you get if you're gonna operate a business in the city of East Point. The city of East Point also has laws when dealing with peddlers and soliciting. They require a permit if you're gonna peddle. Peddling would be going door to door, selling a good or service. Soliciting is going door to door to solicit for your business or anything else. A typical example that we see a lot of times is, unfortunately, some alarm companies go door to door in the residential neighborhoods soliciting that you sign up for services with them. They are required to have a solicitation permit. The solicitation permits and the peddler's permits are issued through the police department. So if that's something that you're wanting to do, please contact the police department and go through that process. As with many laws, there are exceptions in some cases for charities and nonprofits. Just when in doubt, please call someone. I talked about how you can find out what the municipal codes are. Every one of the codes that we've talked about is on Muni codes. The next section that we'll talk about now is a newly formed ordinance dealing with short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are those rentals such as you're on vacation or you're renting a home or a room for less than 30 days. The city of East Point has newly passed legislation which requires licenses, short-term rental license and business license, if you are renting rooms in your house or if you're renting the entire house out. Now, certain zoning areas of the city allow you only to rent your whole house out, and certain zoning areas allow you to only rent your rooms out. If you're allowed to only rent rooms out, you must be at the house and be the resident and stay at the house while you're renting the rooms. These are newly passed ordinances, and we'll talk about them at a later time. But my suggestion would be, if you operate a short-term rental, would be to look at the ordinances in the East Point that were passed recently that deal with short-term rentals, and please comply with those regulations. Now we're going to talk about what you should do if you see what you believe is a code violation in your neighborhood or in your business district or wherever in the city of East Point. There are many ways to report a code violation in the city of East Point. Most code violations are not emergencies. They can be dealt with at any time. We do not want everyone calling 911 for every code violation, unless it's that serious to where it's threatening someone's life or safety. The best way to report a code violation is the city code enforcement has a code enforcement complaint line. That number is 404-559-6270. When you call the code enforcement complaint line, it's an answering service. Please leave a brief message of the violation, the address if you have it, your name and phone number if you want us to contact you. That is very helpful in a lot of cases, because what you're complaining about may not be able to be seen from the public right away, or the code officer may need more information to find what it is you're talking about. We understand that a lot of times people do not want to be identified as complainants in code enforcement, just like they do in criminal laws being violated. That's perfectly fine. If you do not want us to call you, if you do not want us to contact you, we will not. You do not have to leave your name and phone number. Simply leave a good description of the code violation and we'll check it out. The city also has services called See-Click Fix. It's an app that can be downloaded on your smartphone. Whether you have Apple or an Android phone, you can go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store and download the City of East Point See-Click Fix app. You sign up for that service, and simply from your phone, you're able to report code violation. It has a mapping system which will basically identify where you're at that you're talking about. You can attach pictures, you can make comments, you can be anonymous on See-Click Fix. Again, sometimes it is good, even if you're going to be anonymous online when you're reporting things, is to contact us and give us more information if need be. But we do understand if you want to be anonymous. Also, you can come to the police station. You can make contact in person with a code enforcement officer. All you have to do is come to the police station and request to speak to a code officer. One will be dispatched to meet with you. You can meet with them personally, talk about whatever the violation is that you would like to see abated, and we'll go from there. Also, all of the code officers have city email. If you need to email a complaint or a request, you can simply email the code officer. On the city's homepage, the code enforcement has a section which will show the officers that are assigned to code enforcement with all of their phone numbers. You can call in the complaint. You can go on See-Click Fix and type in your request or complaint. You can meet the officer in person. You can flag an officer down if you see a complaint. In some cases, there are some times where things happen after hours. Typically the code violations are existing. The grass isn't going to go anywhere. The junk car is not going to go anywhere. So the officers can handle those when they receive the complaint and return to work. If it is something that you need immediate assistance on, you can call the non-emergency number with the East Point Police Department. That number is 404-761-2177. When you call the non-emergency line, you're basically talking to a police dispatcher. This would be one of those cases where you can't wait. The code violation needs to be addressed. The most common time that we see this is with tractor trailers being parked in shopping centers or in residential areas. If you need to have that addressed immediately, you can call the non-emergency line and report that. Any police officer in the city of East Point is vested with the power and authority to enforce any code violation. Of course, the police officers aren't trained as well or educated as much on enforcement of the property maintenance code and municipal codes. However, the city affords us the ability that they issue all of us city cell phones. So there are often times where we need the police that work overnight to help us enforce some of the city's codes. With the code officers that are under the police department have a very personal relationship with all the police officers, and we work hand in hand. We assist each other when need be. If there's something that's going on at night, on the weekends, or after hours, we always have police officers working the city 24/7. Now, of course, we want the police officers to be patrolling and preventing crime and solving crime. However, in some situations, we do request them to help us enforce some of the city's codes when they're being violated. So those are the ways that you can report a code violation. So in this video, I've given you a brief description of what code enforcement is, how the laws are passed, some of the most common code violations, What do you do if you get a code violation notice? The process you can expect to go through, and what you should do if you want to make a complaint or request that code enforcement is needed at a certain location or a certain area. I hope this has helped everyone understand a little bit more about code enforcement. Please, we should all be thankful that the code officers are out doing what they do. Code enforcement is a very tough job. I've been a cop for 23 years in the city of East Point, and trying to enforce code ordinances is much more difficult than dealing with anything criminally I've ever dealt with. But thank you and have a great day.